Hi guys, I'm VikingDog78 and this is round 6 of the Aero Racing Group 3 Championship. We are at Road Atlanta for round 6 and we're just going straight into qualifying. This was not going to be a round that I was looking forward to because the Renault lacks a little bit of pace around here and the tire wear is so massive that it's going to be an issue, but I'll talk about that in the race. Meanwhile, first lap of quali I get blocked by Cap, but there was a bit of a mess in front of us, so I decided not to report what happened. On the third flying lap I had this massive slipstream from Alex, which was allowing me to improve massively. I would have been on for a 17.0, potentially a 16.9, but I messed up the final chicane, and that means that I just improved by a couple of hundredths. So we go back into the pits, we put on new soft tires. Funnily enough, I got a penalty for crossing the pit entry line, which was a factor in other tiers. I'm sure most of you have seen it, but now we skip to my best lap of the session. So we brake on that escape road down to 4th and then immediately up to 5th gear once again. Then we brake on this curb down to 3rd and then trying to maximize the traction, going as early as possible on the power flat out through these fast chicanes in sector 1. Then again maximizing the curbs without taking a track limit penalty on that corner, which is like a 0.5 or 1 second. Kepler in front of me gets one, which will allow me to get a brief slipstream on the main straight, but I will not because he spins off. Thankfully he saw me coming and pulled over immediately. Then on to the main straight where I lose most of my time compared to Iggy, who's in P1 at the moment, and most of the other cars bar Sonic in the VR set. 57.0, it's a very good split for me. Into the chicane, which I noticed has been a weak point for me during this round. I don't know how I should have taken it, but nonetheless it was a decent run. And then up to the line it's a 17.146, which is good enough for P3, and I barely missed out on P2 by like 300ths of a second. So 15 minutes sprint race where the name of the game will be essentially to save the tires as much as possible and fight as less as possible. Starting P3, I know I have the best launch of the grid among the top cars. And here something interesting happens because Sonic just turns into Iggy and almost spins him out. I don't know what was going on here, but I think there was quite some lag involved between the two of them, so it was probably more of a lag contact than anything else. So yeah, luckily Iggy managed to save the car from spinning out because otherwise the entire grid would have been caught out on that. So we skip to the main straight where you can just see how much BX is gaining on me on the Peugeot VGT, but you know, that's completely fair. Like, that's what that car is good at. So it's completely expected to happen. End of lap 1, P2, that's as best as it can get really because Iggy's pace is unmatched around here. So I'm just trying to follow him as much as I can. End of lap 2, I've lost a couple of tenths. So, you know, the pace is good, and most importantly, I have to run away from BX and Sonic, who start fighting now during lap 4. And it's important for me to gain as much as possible because, as I was saying previously, tire wear is going to be so massive. It's a 12 laps sprint race, but my tires will be dying out during lap 9, which means that I have to build a gap as large as possible to Sonic and BX and Caplero, so that I have something to work with the moment my rear left will be no more essentially. So they keep fighting. BX will come back to Sonic during this straight, obviously with this straight line speed. And this is, you know, all of this is helping me out because I need to build that gap to BX and Sonic. So end of lap 5, BX has to serve a penalty, which is not ideal because that puts Sonic in clean air. Keplero manages to briefly get the position on him, and they will keep fighting through the chicane, I believe. But Sonic eventually takes the position, and that's what I didn't want, to have Sonic in clean air. Now lap 9, this is the moment in which my rear left completely dies. There you can see that pixel of like white of life in the tire that just completely dies out and vanishes into, I don't know where it vanishes, but now you will see how different the car drives without the tire effectively. I have to brake as straight as possible into turn 1 and then turn when I have completed the braking essentially. You can just see how much sliding there is now through every corner, and the medium to high speed corners are possibly the worst for this kind of tire wear because the car just snaps out into a snap oversteer all of a sudden, and you cannot really control much of that. Sonic has already gained like a second and a half, so yeah, it's not looking great because there are still 2.5 laps to go. End of lap 11, Sonic has closed within a second, but he has a 1.5 second of penalty, which I don't know where he picked that up, but he did, which gives me so much breathing space because he will drop to 3 seconds, if not more. And so I just have to manage, the final lap. I almost spin out at the very final chicane, but that's going to be P2. Iggy had way too much space, but P2 very satisfying in the runoff for this race. So now we're gonna go into the 40 minutes feature race. So for the 40 minutes feature race, everybody pretty much is gonna be starting on medium tires. I'll be obviously at the back, and at the start obviously you don't want to take any major risks because you have 40 minutes. There's plenty of time to close the gap to gain positions, so there's really nothing to gain in the first couple of corners, but there's a lot of fight at the front which immediately closes up and brings the entire pack together. And through these first corners, I really don't want to commit to any particularly aggressive move, even if I have the opportunity to do so. I just want to do it if it's going to be clean. So there was a small bump to Sonic because it was going slower than I expected. But here, for example, I take an outside line, but I'm not committing to anything. Iggy will take the inside line here, and I'm fine with it. Even if I lose that position, I'm not fighting Iggy in this round, so he can go for that move. Now we go back into single file. Iggy is still alongside me, and he's going to get the run into the chicane. I have the opportunity to make it a 3 wide here. I decide not to. I back out of it. Keplero outbreaks himself and Sonic goes very wide, which allows Iggy to switch back. I kind of switch back on both of them, but they will go side by side through the final corner, and there's essentially leg contact through there, which causes Sonic to hit the barriers. He was not happy. He told him well done, but that was completely lag. It was very visible from my point of view, and also from what Iggy has shown in the Tier 1 set afterwards. We skip to the main straight on lap 2, and there's this pack of 6 cars now within pretty much 4/10 of each other. And I'll be honest, I was expecting people to die here, but we kept it clean. I'm proud of that. So I go around the outside of Alex, and also the door kind of opens to overtake Bomber, so I go for it. And it's another double overtake. And this is what I kind of wanted to do in Brazil and I wasn't able to do. Use Iggy as the guy who initiates an overtake so that I can follow through immediately. Here, unfortunately, he clears Benjamin straight away, but I have him in front of me through the assist, so I cannot clear him until he serves his penalty on the main straight. So that puts me back one second over Iggy. which means that he is able to clear Chris before I am able to catch up to them. So going through the second sector, I set up a switchback on Chris here to get a better exit. In fact, it's so much better that I'm already alongside, which I didn't want to, because now I will have a lower top end speed and Chris will come back at me, and I also have Bomber behind who can potentially threaten my position going into the chicane. I still outbrake Chris through here, and then there's some weird contact and some weird Gran Turismo physics going on there, which caused me to cause my car to turn right while I was turning left, but whatever. Like, I overtake Chris, Bomber overtakes Chris as well. This game is weird. Like, end of lap 9 I make this mistake, which is like my only mistake of the entire round, and I don't know if it costed me anything overall, but it's not pleasant to make that kind of mistake. I don't defend the position on Bomber because I was under the assumption that my tires were still dirty, so I didn't want to cause any trouble. And then end of lap 13, my tires are dying out, and I don't have the pace to keep up with Bomber. It's as simple as that. Obviously, he's the reigning Tier 2 champion, so he's a very good driver. There's no denying that, and the Mazda is also a very good car. And he also has better tire wear, so at the moment I cannot keep up with him, and I'm pretty much going as quick as possible. End of lap 15, my tires are dead, but I have to go until lap 18 because I need to go onto the softs when I know that I can make them last. Whereas Bomber can just pit now. He will go 15 laps on the softs and he can make them work for that long of a distance. End of lap 17, I decided to pit because most people in front started pitting. BX pits, Fatban in front of me pits. So I decided to follow them through and at the same time try a bit of an undercut. Also, I didn't get a penalty for the white line on the entry, which is very important, and it can also get kind of tricky, to be honest, when you are on bad tires. It's very easy to understeer or oversteer over the line. Pit exit, I actually jumped Fatban because I had to refuel less, but then he cleared me straight away into the main straight because of the Supra and its straight line speed, which is a bit annoying because now I know I have more pace than him, but I have to clear him once again. I was surprised to go alongside through here, and we actually gave each other room here. I expected him to shut the door on me, but he actually gave me room up until the very end, so fair play for that. It was a nice scrap. I was trying to set up a switchback, but he covered it off very nicely, so I have to settle behind and wait once again for the main straight, which means that I have to stay behind him for another minute or so. So yeah, end of the straight, and I struggle so much to close the gap on straight line, but then I can brake a bit later and close the move before the second apex of the chicane, and that's me up to P6, just behind Iggy, who got undercut by Bomber because he had just a massive undercut on all of us. And now I caught up to CMP, who I think pitted a lap after me, so he's going to have better tires towards the end of the race, but at this stage I'm still a bit faster, so I want to get the position and run away before he can come back at me. But as I'm setting up the move, I realized that I was a bit low on fuel. I was like 0.2, 0.3 laps low on fuel, which means that I had to fuel save a little bit. And it's not a lot, but it's not that easy to save fuel around here, because it loses you a lot of time to short shift a little bit, to lift and coast through certain corners. And you can see that now my pace goes up completely, like 18.6, 18.0, when my PB was a 17.0 just prior to the overtake. That just shows you how costly it is to underfuel by even like 1%. And now lap 28, I'm good on fuel, but I'm not good on tires anymore, and I couldn't build up a gap to CMP because I had to save fuel, which again, it's a mistake of mine to not take like 3 or 4 tenths more in the pit lane to refuel some more. And so he will get the outside line going into the chicane. He does clear me before the braking point, but I'm still very close. I'm still within half a tenth. So I will go down the inside there. And here it's, again, Gran Turismo doing Gran Turismo things, because he's clearly ahead of me, and on his screen it's a very different scenario, and he just flies off into the gravel. But as you saw, there's nothing on my screen, and there's nothing that I can do to prevent that from happening. So yeah, it's going to be P4. Not a very eventful round overall, but a good sprint race. The feature probably would have wanted a bit more pace, but that's the way it is, and the tire wear being so high around here didn't really help. But that's it. Next round is Spa, where it could rain and the tire wear is significantly lower, which means that I can actually push the entire sprint. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'll see you next week. Goodbye.